The first screen adaptations of Arnold Bennett works date from the period after the Cinemas Act of 1909 made it compulsory to screen films in purpose-built cinemas, with separate projection rooms, safety exits and so on, and the new trend for feature-length films coming in from about 1912, with an average running time of about an hour, rather than film shows comprising a rolling programme of short films, 15 minutes maximum. 1,000 feet manufactured reel of film ran for 15 minutes at the old projection speed, so a 15-minute film was a one-reeler. The new running time of about an hour was a four-reeler. Production companies were looking for suitable screenplays, and adapting a stage play was the common option. Not all features ran for a full hour. The first record of an Arnold Bennett work adapted for the cinema is The Grand Babylon Hotel of 1914, made by the Eclipse Film Company. No copy exists. Bennett's play, The Great Adventure of 1913, is a version of Buried Alive. It had 673 West End performances from 1913 to 1914, and it's still in the top 70 longest runs of all time for a West End play. There was a film version in 1916 made by Turner Films and starred Henry Ainsley, the West End lead, and Esme Hubbard, with Arthur Collin, Rutland Barrington, Amy Lorraine and Hubert Harden. The Grand Babylon Hotel was made as a film again in 1916 by Hepworth Films, directed by Frank Wilson and starring Fred Wright, Marguerite Blanche and Gerald Lawrence. Septimus Bennett, Arnold's brother, went to see it. The picture was splendid and well worth sitting through all the others. As in the book, the beginning gave me the impression of something higher class to follow. Still, as melodrama, it was lovely. The buying of the entire hotel in order to obtain a bottle of Bass to dinner, just to please a whim of Theodore's daughter, was exceedingly well done. Milestones of 1912, a play which Bennett wrote with Edward Knobloch, is the saga of an upper-class English family starting in the 1860s and ending in 1912, demonstrating the industrial and social changes in English society. Milestones was filmed in 1917 by Samuelson Films, directed by Thomas Bentley, and starring Campbell Gullen, Isabel Elson, Esme Hubbard, Owen Nares, Hubert Harden. These last three were in the original stage version. Bennett said of the film, "Though it was tremendously vulgarized, it was not as bad as I expected. It contained some ideas which would have been in the play if I'd thought of them, only I didn't." The film is missing from the British Film Institute National Archive and is listed as one of the British Film Institute's 75 most wanted lost films. Milestones was filmed again in 1920 by Goldwyn Pictures, with Lewis Stone, Alice Hollister, Mary Alden. 1920 saw the expansion of the larger studios. Hollywood would have 20 by the end of the decade, and this film seems to have had higher production values. A copy or copies do exist, but attempts to put it and some of the other Bennett adaptations onto social media have been curtailed. Das Grand Hotel Babylon was a 1920 German production by Stern Film, directed by E. A. Dupont, who would go on to direct Piccadilly in 1929, and starred Hans Albers, Max Lander and Karl Falkenberg. The Wedding Dress in 1920. Bennett signed with famous Players Lasky to write an original script which was completed in December 1920. His first screenplay, and 27,400 words long. Total disagreement between Bennett and Hugh Ford, famous Players editor, led to the project being abandoned. He was paid $5,000 but lost 3 months of his time. "You can tell Mr. Lasky how much 3 months of my time is worth," was his parting shot. The manuscript of The Wedding Dress disappeared and was found in 1984 by Bennett's daughter Virginia Eldin in her Paris home. She donated it to the Victoria Theatre to auction off as part of the fundraising campaign for the new Vic, which opened in 1986. And here she is handing it over to Peter Cheeseman.
I had the manuscript with me for perhaps 10 years without knowing it. Well, first of all, I was flabbergasted. And then I thought almost immediately that I should give my problem to Peter, and that perhaps it could be used for your theatre. May I give this manuscript to you for the use of the appeal for the new theatre. And I hope it raises the maximum amount of money.
Thank you very much, Virginia. Thank you. We're willing to sell it to the highest bidder, are we, Virginia?
Yes, absolutely.
You would approve,
yes, I would approve
of that. So
yes.
If anybody with $1 million wants to buy a double scenario of The Wedding Dress by Arnold Bennett in his own extraordinary handwriting,
Yes.
Virginia, say a word about the handwriting. Here it is.
Well, there's a certain amount of crossing out, which shows which it probably was a first draft, because I believe in his former manuscripts were very few mistakes made or crossings out. So he was thinking while he was writing it. It's written very swift handwriting.
And it is about 100 pages written with a fountain pen, written in ink, in that very tiny, but very characteristic handwriting, isn't it? Well, very small handwriting. Here we are. And a lot of crossings out.
A lot of crossings.
Yes. And it is, in fact, two scenarios.
Perhaps it is two scenarios. It's possible that as he was writing it, he had discussions with the person for whom he was writing it, and it changed it accordingly.
And the film, which it was intended for, Virginia, never came off, did it?
No, I don't.
There is a letter in which he tells his agent that the film people wanted alterations which he wasn't prepared to accept, and he said they knew what the public wanted, and he said nobody knows what the public will like. They know what the public has liked. And I reckon Arnold Bennett was an authority in that he wrote this letter in his yacht moored off Cannes, a yacht which he had purchased with the proceeds of his writing.
Well, then it was before
I think he knew what he was talking about.
It was before I was born then.
I think he was a man who knew about that sort of thing.
Now there's a published version of The Wedding Dress, edited by John Shapcott. Sacred and Profane Love, the Book of Carlotta, was made into a 1920 Broadway play by Julia Crawford Ivers, then into a film in 1921 by famous Players Lasky, directed by William Desmond Taylor, and with Conrad Nagel and Elsie Ferguson. Bennett sold the stage and screen rights to the book. The stage version was used to promote the film in the USA, and Bennett received £500 a week royalties from the play. This 1921 poster of William Desmond Taylor shows the film prominently listed. All known copies of this film are lost, and famously, William Desmond Taylor was murdered in 1922, and it's the great unsolved Hollywood murder mystery. The Old Wives' Tale was filmed in 1921 by Ideal Films, with Fay Compton as Sophia, Florence Turner as Constance, and Henry Victor. Fay Compton went on to a long career in British films. She's seen here in a charity promotional film with other British performers. Florence Turner, Constance, was more of a character and comedy actress. And this amusing short film from 5 years earlier, Daisy Doodad's Dial, features her as a girl who wins a face-pulling competition and then is haunted by her own bizarre expressions and just can't stop pulling faces. The Card was filmed in 1922 by Ideal Films, with Laddie Cliff as Denry, Dora Gregory, Joan Barry and Mary Dibley. Laddie Cliff was born in 1891 and had been a child star before going to America to tour in vaudeville from 1907 to 1916. He joined the army from 16 to 19, then went back on the stage and was one of the original co-optimists. The Card was his first film, and he went on to make several more. Faust. In 1926, Bennett wrote the intertitles for a German silent film version of Goethe's book, produced by the great director F.W. Murnau. These still exist, but the YouTube version of the complete film you can see online has the intertitles newly translated, and the Blu-ray version is high quality, but with the original German titling. Ricing Steps was proposed as a film in 1927. Michael Morton, who'd adapted it for the stage, failed to sell it to Gainsborough Pictures, and the film was never produced. The City of Pleasure became a German film in 1928, a story of mystery, romance, humour and crime. Bennett wrote on the 29th of January 1929, "I saw this film last night. It begins very well, with the funfair scenes and so on, but the actual story, as screened, has absolutely no connection with The City of Pleasure. Also, every shred of comedy has been carefully removed from the film. Why, I cannot imagine, unless the director failed to see any comedy in the book. To witness this film made me very gloomy." Piccadilly, in 1929, can be seen as Bennett's greatest achievement in the medium of film. An original screenplay, beautifully directed by E.A. Dupont, who had directed the German version of the Grand Babylon Hotel in 1920. It stars American actress and dancer Gilda Gray, famous for inventing the 20s dance called the shimmy, and one of the only actresses mentioned in The Great Gatsby. It includes the first screen appearance of the great Charles Laughton as a disgruntled diner at Valentine Wilmot's nightclub and restaurant. It launched the career of the mesmerizing Anna May Wong, who uses her wiles with the manager to advance from kitchen dishwasher to star exotic dancer, but disaster awaits. Finally, there was the project Punch and Judy of 1928 to 29 for British National Films. Bennett was paid an advance of £1,000 for 3 months' work on the screenplay for this silent film to be directed by Alfred Hitchcock. When it was decided to turn the film into a talkie, he was not told. Bennett hated talkies and thought the voices intrusive, and he didn't like Hitchcock, who wanted the talkie. Negotiations broke down and the project was abandoned. Now John Shapcott has published the film's original scenario and the novel of the film, with extensive supporting research and notes, giving a great insight into Bennett's final involvement in the film business. And Hitchcock was having his own problems at the same time with blackmail. He'd already shot half the film silently when the decision was made to turn it into a talkie. Now he had to capture dialogue scenes. But his star, Annie Ondra, was Czech and had a strong accent. Needless to say, he couldn't use her voice. And the technique hadn't been invented for post-production dubbing the sound over, a technique famously featured in Singing in the Rain.
This is a demonstration of a talking picture. Notice it is a picture of me and I am talking. Note how my lips and the sound issuing from them are synchronized together in perfect unison. My voice is recorded on a record and so connected with the mechanism of the projecting machine as to run simultaneously with the unreeling of the film. A talking picture. Thank you. Goodbye.
Nothing can tear us apart. Our love will last till the stars turn cold.
Nothing can tear us apart. Our love will last till the stars turn cold.
So for every new take with dialogue, Annie Ondra had to mouth her words, while an English actress beside the camera but off-screen would speak them live.
I I've got it.
Please give it to me.
All right, come around. Come on, get it.
Please, please.
Come on, Alice.
Could she have said the lines convincingly? This rare piece of sound film you'll now see shows the time Hitchcock himself tested Aniandra for her talking and off-the-cuff reaction to his cues. Judge for yourself.
Now, Miss Andra, you asked me to let you hear your voice on the talking picture.
But Hitch, you mustn't do that.
Why not?
Well, because I can speak well.
Do you realize the squad van will be here any moment?
No, really. Oh, my God, I'm terribly frightened.
Why? Have you been a bad woman or something?
Well, not just bad, but...
But you've slept with men.
Oh, no!
You have not. Come here. Stand in your place. Otherwise, it will not come out right, as the girl said to the soldier. That's enough.